On this election day, we're taking an early look at some of the exit polls from Fairfax County. We told you last week about students conducting these exit poll interviews.
Yeah, this is so cool. Joining us live right now is professor of those students, George Mason University professor Jeremy Meyer. Professor Meyer, thank you for being here with us.
Pleasure.
All right, so we know that as of noon today, a little more than 60% of registered voters have voted in Fairfax County. And these are partial results right now since that voting is still ongoing. But what are they seeing? What are your students seeing? Who are people voting for?
Well, I got to start with caveats. We only polled at 3 Fairfax precincts that we picked because in 2020 they reflected the overall Virginia outcome. So our goal is to try and call how Virginia will vote. But what we're seeing in these 3 precincts is at least some good news for the Democrats. Harris is running more than 20 points ahead of where Biden was in these same 3 precincts 4 years ago. Another caveat, though, we're not polling rural Virginia, and it's quite possible that they're 20 points ahead of where Trump was.
Now, this gives us a small window into a small number of voters right now in Fairfax County, which you have also said is not really the picture of America per se. But can you tell us at this point, based on what we're hearing here, how voters are feeling toward the candidates in this election, both
That is our main focus, because my class is on polarization. So we added a question that you won't see in any other exit poll. Do you love, like, dislike, or hate Harris? And then the same question about Trump. And what we're finding is over 60% of women voters in Fairfax hate Trump. They didn't say dislike, they chose hate. Whereas Republicans in our left-leaning precincts don't seem to hate Harris nearly as much.
Can you tell us why you chose the word hate, given the discourse in the nation and how troubling this is, I think, for everybody on all sides, both from the election and the electorate? It's a strong word. Was there a reason why you picked that word?
Absolutely, and it's a great question, because there's 2 ways to think about polarization. One is issue polarization, that the 2 parties are disagreeing on the issues more and more and more. But emotional polarization is a bigger problem. You can compromise on the issues, but if you think the other side is demonic or a fascist, it's really hard to imagine a compromise. So we're studying polarization, and that's the word that gets to it most directly.
Yeah, and we know, Professor, this isn't the first time you and your students have conducted these sorts of exit polls. Could you tell us if this process has changed at all compared to some of the past elections?
Well, I'm happy to report that my students tell me that they didn't have any hostility, that when I did some polling in the Republican primaries of 2016 at these nearby these same precincts, there were a couple interactions that were a little unfriendly and suspicious. But this year, no bad interactions so far. It's not over yet, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
Why do you think that is? What does this say about who you're dealing with right now, the electorate?
Well, I'm always looking for reasons to have hope for America. So maybe the hot fever of polarization could be breaking. Maybe this is the election where after 20 years we'll finally start to heal these wounds. But it's a very thin amount of evidence to make that argument.
We'll take what we can get, though, that optimism.
Yeah. And you know better than most that polling doesn't always capture the tenor of a particular race. How are you and your students tweaking this a little bit to really get people to tell you the truth in these exit polls?
So I'm not sure we are doing that. I don't know how to do that anymore. I think that's a longer interview type thing where you reveal the deeper feelings. In an exit poll, you really want to get the voter in and out in 2 to 3 minutes. So we're not doing any psychological depth. The one question we have, other than the hate question, that gets at that a little bit, though, is we're asking, hey, what's the issue that's most important to you? And in our survey for Democrats, it's abortion, and it's another question that gets at polarization, which is the most important thing for a lot of Democrats is defeating the other guy. So their motivation for voting is not any of the issues, but just making sure Trump doesn't win.
Well, it seems to track with what we're hearing across the nation in terms of where we are as an electorate. Professor Jeremy Meyer, thank you to you and your students, and we'll look forward to checking in a little later to find out what else we learn about these precincts.
Looking forward to it.
All right.